Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome, everyone, to Top Tier Wrestling. I'm your host, Dawn, the Titan of Tron. Try to figure that shit out if you can. And with me is my co host, the man himself, the Sultan of Smooth, single handedly bringing sexy back, Josh, the melter of ears and crusher of bones. Get ready as we discuss AEW's Dynamite for 10/16, the aftermath of Wrestle Dream fully realized. Let's get into it.
Nice. The melter of ears and crusher of bones.
Wow, yeah. Let's go, baby.
I like it. All right.
Caffeine coursing through my veins. All right.
Yeah. Always useful, that caffeine. So this is as you mentioned, the follow-up show for Wrestle Dream and the aftermath. And to open up the show, we see Jon Moxley in the back of a pickup truck, theoretically attempting to explain what him and his group are trying to do, and yet still somehow not making it very clear. We see Moxley talking about how he'll burn down the forest to plant a new one, and how he's not sentimental. He can see the future, and if you want to come with him, come with him. If not, get out the way.
All I can say is maybe you don't look like a group of very frightening 1950s white supremacists on the back of a pickup truck asking me to join you or threatening to burn something. Maybe not. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe not.
No, don't do that. I'm not getting in the back of that. You crazy?
Right? But then he goes on to say, what's the need to know? What's the new paradigm? It's simple. You work for Moxley now. Now, there seems to be an epidemic across all of wrestling where the first words out of a wrestler's mouth are, it's simple, and then they proceed to not either make it clear or they make it very complicated. I don't understand what this work for you now means. I don't understand what your basic message is.
Yeah,
clearly, if you want to burn down the forest to plant a new one, you're not happy with things the way they are. But I don't know. Is it exclusively that guys are in the back collecting a paycheck who maybe aren't bringing their A game? Is that
I guess,
where we're going?
But here's my thing. If I work for you, I'm still wanting to know where my paycheck is coming. Are you paying me, Mr. Moxley? If so, then yeah, sure, I work for you, buddy. Sure.
Yeah, it seems like there's several groups that are not Tony Khan that are all informing us that they run and own AEW now.
So many
we've got the Elite, we've got the Moxley crew. I mean, it's
how many mob boss crime families are there in control of AEW? One must wonder.
One must indeed.
It's crazy, but yeah, I'm liking where the storyline is going, but I'm by the same token, I'm also slightly confused. Maybe that's why I like it. Maybe I like being bewildered. Maybe that's entertaining for me, but I don't know.
Well, I don't mind a slow burn, and I don't mind him being a little bit mysterious, but this seemed like he was explicitly trying to explain himself and still did not. And, I'm here for it. It sort of feels like this is AEW doing the old, because they're very into the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, or Tony Khan is, and I can't blame him. That was an excellent era of wrestling. But this sort of feels like Moxley and his crew, they really just should call it the Moxley crew or something, because it doesn't feel like it's the Blackpool Combat Club anymore.
Well, they
Um,
can't call it the NWO, so
I mean, for now they can't. But I mean, it's never stopped the Bullet Club from basically being the NWO.
you know what? You ain't
Um,
wrong. You ain't wrong.
so, but it does feel like the NWO takeover of WCW, and I feel like we're going to see battle lines drawn. Now, right now, it seems like everybody is against Moxley and his crew, but that's how it starts, right? They start as an upstart group, and then it's them versus like literally everybody else who's Team AEW, and then you start to get defectors. I just hope it doesn't go so far as to like everybody's on Moxley's team the way it did with the NWO. Eventually, everyone was a member of the NWO.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but it sort of
remember.
feels like they're setting that up because like every other faction that they have is basically in opposition to them. And we'll talk about it more because this isn't the last time we're going to hear from Moxley. But as an opening statement, I still feel like you have not clarified your position, nor how you becoming the champ suddenly means that everybody else is on your payroll. I don't think you win the company, you just won the belt. Um, but we'll go with it for
We'll
now.
pull him
I'm
aside.
just saying
Moxley,
there's
listen. You didn't get the company, buddy. Just the belt. Just did they tell you? Did they tell you backstage? Yeah, you just get the belt, not the company. No, that's still Tony. Okay,
yeah, I'm
good talk.
pretty sure that's not the controlling interest belt. Um,
uh, it says on the front. It says AEW company. Like you won. Congratulations.
right? Is there a certain number of shares that go with the AEW belt?
I
And is it
bet
more
Cody.
than Tony Khan has?
Now Cody's feeling real extra gypped. Like Cody's like, wait a minute. The whole company?
Right?
All I got was this belt and this storyline with the bloodline still. All right, I'm gonna stop
Right.
now.
He's like, I didn't know. I thought, that, yeah, over on WWE. Same idea. Same like we run this place, and it's like I guess I could have
Yeah,
swore Triple H did, but what do I know?
yeah.
Um, however, moving on from that particular promo, we start the show with another promo based on a big return that happened on Wrestle Dream, and that is Adam Cole, baby.
Baby.
And his entrance music plays, and he saunters down to the ring. And not before he
No
makes
running,
sure that
no
he
jumping.
pauses and waits and waits and waits for his music to get to the right part, and then goes boom.
Hey, don't be hating on Adam.
I'm just saying that's how it went. And
You
then
whistle
he
up the. I like that song. Okay,
boom.
anyway.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. You left me boomless. I had to do it
Well,
myself.
the delay. Um, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to boom over you. You know what I mean? That's been booming over someone is rude.
We could have boomed together.
All
It's
right, we're
okay.
not going there. We're not
Um.
going there.
Anyway, it starts out with Adam Cole asking who's ready for story time with Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah.
And he goes on to say Roddy, Matt, Mike, essentially all of the members of the Undisputed Kingdom, that he loves them, but he's got to do this on his own. And that MJF is the worst human being on the planet, and sometimes you've got to fight evil with evil. Not sure I agree with how that works, but we'll go with it. And he says Cole is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. Everything about MJF is fake. His hair, for example, took 2 surgeries, but hey, it's there. And he says if you go on social media and trash MJF, he'll act like he doesn't care, but he cares. And that MJF is a phony and can't be trusted, and that everyone in the locker room is smiling and agreeing with him and what he's saying, which is the best locker room in wrestling, period. And he continues to say that he hates everything about MJF, and let's not waste any more time. And that Cole wants to whoop that ass right now, bro, chacho. And then MJF's music hits, and it plays for a little bit, and Cole's looking all around, checking behind him, making sure he isn't getting jumped. And then it cuts to MJF cutting a promo on the Titantron, and MJF goes on to say there's no such thing as trust, and there are a lot of jackals in pro wrestling. And he says Adam Cole made him the man he is today, and he knows Cole wants to beat him to within an inch of his life, but it's never going to happen. MJF is going to dangle that carrot of revenge in front of Cole's face for all of eternity, and you can thank him later. And Cole responds by saying when he gets his hands on MJF, he'll make him wish they'd never met after the ass beating of a lifetime.
I think he already thinks that, but what do I know?
I think so too. Now, I would like to say I appreciate that Adam Cole came out here to sort of try and at least explain why he's not with the Undisputed Kingdom, because that was a thing like in the big betrayal of the Brochacho storyline. Like he started the Undisputed Kingdom, and then it eventually just fell off and fell off and fell off until it was literally just uh, Roddy, Matt, and Mike. Like Wardlow disappeared, Adam Cole disappeared, so that whole thing just sort of the only reason the Undisputed Kingdom kept going was because of Roddy, Matt, and Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so at least he tried to explain some of that, but I don't understand, aside from the fact that MJF is clearly the heel right now, that, what heat exists between him and Adam Cole. Adam betrayed him. If anything, it's MJF who should want more revenge against Adam Cole. But it
Yeah.
seems like MJF got over it by just simply coming out and like kicking Adam Cole in the nuts and calling it a day, and has since moved on, and it's like Adam Cole has brought it back, and I just don't necessarily understand why Adam Cole has such a vendetta at this point with MJF.
Yeah, I think
Unless it's
I
because his
think we're
balls still hurt from that particular, like that one interaction.
I think we're supposed to assume that the entire time that they were quote unquote friends or besties, Adam was getting revenge for something, for the fact that MJF is just evil or something. I don't know. I'm not really. I mean, I understand, but then I kind of don't, because there was no point where they were making it clear in that little storyline that Adam was playing him. In fact, it was usually the opposite. Like they went out of their way to show us that Adam was being truthful and being an honest friend to MJF. I mean, that's what they tried to show us, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but
No, I
I
think
could
you're
have
right because
sworn
it was a
that that's what I saw. I mean, he even went out of
yeah.
his way to come up with a theme song that put both of their songs together. I don't understand how you're doing all of that going, yeah, I'm playing this fucker. Can't wait to stab him in the back. I mean, I just didn't see it. And normally, wrestling their storylines are very just like right out there. There is no guessing or trying to put two and two together on your own. They basically spell it out for you. They did
Yeah.
not in that particular situation. So,
No,
in
which
fact, I
is
feel like they did I feel like they did the opposite. So, I'm not
yeah.
sure about that.
But that's why the Adam Cole betrayal like hit the way it did, right? Because it
Yeah,
wasn't
it's weird.
super telegraphed. But
Mm-mm.
that being the case, it really did seem like MJF was coming along being like a bro, and then it was Adam Cole who turned that on its ear. And so if anything, I would think MJF would still be bitter about it, but it seems like Adam Cole is the one carrying the torch. And it's like, yeah, did we all forget that it was Adam Cole that pulled the big betray on MJF? Because taking that storyline at face value, it looked like MJF was in fact trying to be a better bro chacho.
Yeah, but we're
And
supposed to now believe that he was faking that too this entire time. And again, like you said, and like I was saying earlier, wrestling telegraphs the shit out of the storyline. So they didn't in that. They did not
yeah,
show us that MJF was really a piece of shit trying to not be, or pretending to not be. That's not how they showed that at all. He got up there and talked about when he was bullied as a kid, Um
yeah, yeah.
and,
And given
now we're supposed to go, "Oh, you are faking it." I don't know about that. I
Yeah,
don't know about that.
yeah, and that I think is where the issue lies. Is that given where that storyline went, if for the people watching, and given where they're trying to take it now, it seems like they're just hoping to force it through. Like, Adam Cole is suddenly super face, but only by way of the fact that MJF is super heel. So, just to be opposite, because what happened with everything that you were trying to do with the Undisputed Kingdom, that all just seems to be just kind of hand waved away, and they just want you to come along. They're saying this is where we're going with it now. So
Yeah,
there,
and I'd
but
like
I,
to
I
point out
don't
that they
feel.
were. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't feel like we've gotten there organically. Like
No.
I
Yep.
feel
Yep.
like
Yep.
this is just like Adam Cole's gonna be a face because MJF is a heel, and
Yes.
they have
Yes.
some history together. So go, and
Yeah.
we're just
I
supposed
think.
to be like, okay,
Yeah. Because I mean, when the last time we saw him and the group, the Undisputed Kingdom and whatnot, they were the heel faction. Like they were heels, and MJF was a super mega baby face,
yeah,
right? And then he comes back, and maybe he felt more comfortable being a heel. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But he came back, and he wanted to be super heel again, or he was super heel again. And now Adam Cole, who manipulated an entire situation, like an entire group of people, like the whole audience, like in my mind, like he manipulated everybody. If he is saying that he was playing a role to get MJF because MJF is evil, the one that comes off as evil is Adam because he manipulated an entire situation. In fact, he basically inserted himself in this particular storyline when it came to MJF. He befriended this dude. He convinced him that he was a friend, that he was a solid individual. On top of that, he convinced him that he could be one to trust. He went out of his way to prove to MJF that he would not backstab him. And then suddenly he backstabs him. And now we're supposed to go, yay, Adam Cole, because MJF is bitter about that?
yeah, and if anything, you've just made the case that of the two of them that comes across as more fake, it's Cole than MJF.
Right, and then
Um,
and then Cole comes up here and cuts a promo about how fake and everything about MJF is fake, and I'm like, but the only person who is fake here is clearly you because you are admitting to faking being his friend.
right? Thus, the gotta fight evil with evil, right? Yeah.
Like
So
what?
I'm just not sold. I mean, I can believe MJF being bitter and having had his trust broken. He's a heel, but I don't understand how we get to Cole as a face, other than the fact that he's standing opposite of MJF.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
and
it. Like Cole is not a face. Cole is
and
still the asshole that betrayed his bro Chacho. Even if I'm
yeah,
supposed to not like MJF, that doesn't mean I
thank
suddenly
you.
think you're
You just took the
squeaky
words
clean.
right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was about to say next. Yes. Just because MJF is a piece of shit doesn't mean that you aren't a piece of shit as well, especially in this situation. Like you can call
Yeah.
him whatever you'd like, you can say whatever you'd like about MJF, but MJF didn't go out of his way to befriend you, only to betray you. He's evil, if you want to call him that, sure. But at least he's upfront about it. You went all the way around the corner, up the river, and through the woods to Grandma's house to get to your fucking evil ass shit. So I'm trying to figure out why am I supposed to be like, yeah, Adam meant well. Nah.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's not a good look. I know.
so
We're getting real deep about kayfabe storylines and wrestling, but
well,
I'm looking at how it looks as a whole, which is weird.
yeah.
It's a
And
weird
I
storyline.
that's the point I'm trying to make though, is that like I don't know where they're trying to get us to be with Adam Cole, but it's
Yeah,
not landing right because even if MJF is a bad guy, it doesn't mean that Cole was not a complete asshole in that
yeah,
situation either.
exactly.
So
Yep.
it's like you're not a this idea of making it a face versus a heel doesn't really land. It's more like two heels against each other would make more
Yeah.
sense.
And that's normally okay with AEW, so I'm not really sure why they're trying to go this route. Because it feels like it's forced. It feels like they're forcing
Yeah.
a
Yep.
good guy versus a bad guy here when it's unnecessary. You got two dudes who one guy is usually screwing people over and another guy who's new to screwing people over apparently. So, I mean, okay, you normally are okay with two heels going after each other. Did you think
Yeah.
that Adam couldn't be a heel by himself because he's not with the Undisputed Kingdom right now?
Undisputed Kingdom. Yeah, I don't know.
Is that
And
what you were thinking? Because heels need groups. Because MJF is a heel, he has no group, no faction.
well, there's
Why
that
couldn't it just
aspect.
be two dudes against two
Yeah,
dudes against each other? Period.
I agree. I agree. And I don't understand one that you're trying to make Cole a face doesn't feel right. So there's that
No.
aspect that's not landing
Yeah.
right. But on the other end of that is of the two of them that I would think would still have some kind of grudge, I would think it would be MJF, not Cole.
Yeah.
And yet it's Cole that seems to be carrying the torch for this, and MJF like didn't seem like he cared that much because he didn't meet Cole in the ring to go to fisticuffs with him like
No.
he's mutually as pissed off as Cole. He ran and has basically said, "I'm going to keep running." And it's like, what revenge exactly is Cole after? That I think is what I don't fully understand either, because
Yeah.
it was Cole who betrayed MJF. So I just don't see what vengeance you are trying to get again, unless your balls still hurt from MJF coming back and kicking you in them. You know, when he made his major comeback after the big betrayal. So there's a
And
couple of elements about this story that's just not quite landing right, and I think it's causing confusion when it need not do so. And so I hope they can clean that up a little bit more as it proceeds. But right now it feels awkward. It feels off.
hey, also let's get real for a second, as real as one can get with wrestling and kayfabe and whatnot. But let's get real for a second. Why are we acting as if MJF could not literally obliterate Adam Cole in the ring? Why are we acting like that? I I
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I'm a firm believer. I listen, and I think I said this last podcast, so I'll just run through it briefly. I am a fan of Adam Cole now. He has sold me on his character. So I'm not talking like I don't like Adam Cole. I'm talking realistically speaking. MJF in the ring versus Adam Cole would be a slaughter. It would be. You remember when he had his fight with Garcia? Yeah, Daniel? Yeah.
yeah.
Uh he had his match with Garcia. Okay, so Garcia got one, sorta. I mean, he lost the match, but he still got his after the match. That's true. But let's go back to what I said before. He lost the match. There is no way, realistically speaking, if they go toe to toe, one on one with each other, there's no realistic way I could see Adam Cole beating MJF. We're talking about a test of strength here, skill, sure, speed. Maybe Adam Cole is faster than MJF. Maybe. I don't know about that. But
Maybe.
I
I'm
do
yeah.
know I do know that MJF is considerably stronger than Adam Cole. And I know they tried to show us when they were besties and at the gym that Adam Cole could go just as hard on the paint with the weights as MJF. No, he couldn't. You guys, like the weight that he was lifting, he was not lifting. There were people on the other side there lifting the weight. He was not lifting as heavy as as they were showing. I know I'm getting real hardcore about it, but I'm just saying, technically speaking, in this imaginary setting where these two men got into a ring to have a match, I don't see Adam Cole besting MJF. I just don't. We're acting like MJF ain't one of the goats, man. That's what we're acting like.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the issue, right? Because it's like Adam Cole is perfectly fine as a wrestler, but MJF
Yeah,
is like on another level. Like
he really
MJF
is generational
doesn't
talent. Like he
yeah,
is.
MJF doesn't need to resort to the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He is every bit of a physical monster in that ring as anybody.
Yeah,
There's no one you could put MJF in the ring with that it doesn't make me believe that MJF could go toe to toe with him. He could be in there with Big Bill, and I could believe that he would beat Big Bill.
yeah,
I could also believe Big Bill would beat him, But
Yes.
that's my point, is that there's verisimilitude in play, right? Like you're trying to pitch me an idea that you want my willing suspension of belief for, and trying to make it out like MJF like needs to scurry away just doesn't fit with a dude that is built like a brick shit house. Like
Yeah.
he is in perfectly great shape and can absolutely go in the ring. So, and I honestly think as a physical specimen, he's got much superior physique and physicality to Adam Cole. So, like, me trying to believe that he just wouldn't tear Adam Cole a new asshole. The only reason it might have been believable before is that he might hesitate because he's his brochacho, but we're way past that now.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there's elements like I think there could be more to this story, and they clearly want there to be, but right now it's just landing awkward is my overall point, and
Yeah.
I think that's as much as I've got left to say on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tend to agree. Wholeheartedly here. I just and I'm not gonna repeat what I was saying just minutes ago, but yeah, I agree.
So after Adam Cole's segment, we are brought to Rennie Packets. Renee, who is in the back having an interview with the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho.
Renee.
And Jericho, this is actually apparently from shortly after the match that he had with Mark Briscoe. And he's saying that he's not done and he really wants to be the Nueve and the two-time champ for Ring of Honor, just like Mark's brother, Jay.
Mic drop.
And so again, he's taking the low blow personal shots route. And that brings us to tonight, where Renee is following up with Mark Briscoe, and he goes on to say that he accepts the rematch, but it's going to be ladder war. And he tells Jericho to keep his brother Jay's name out of his mouth. So next week we're going to have the rematch, apparently for the Ring of Honor title with Mark Briscoe and Chris Jericho again.
Yeah.
And that leads us into the first match of the night, which is FTR versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. And I was actually really excited when I saw that this was the match, because I am glad to get to see Big Bill and Brian Keith kind of do their thing absent Jericho. Like they're actually going to have to wrestle a match and not just be outside of the ring interference.
Yeah.
And this one didn't disappoint. We got to see some good stuff out of both Brian Keith and Big Bill, including particularly they were huge in the run up to the finish of the match. It looked like Big Bill and Brian Keith had hit a heck of a series that could have conceivably beaten FTR.
Yeah.
It was like this huge combination of Big Bill throwing someone into the corner, tagging in Brian Keith, and that allows Keith to hit his Diamond Dust, which I like the Diamond Dust when Brian Keith does it. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then Big Bill follows that up with a massive big boot, and that leads to the pinning combination. And I'm like, oh man, are Brian Keith and Big Bill about to beat FTR? But that's when Cash, breaks up the pin just before they catch the 3 count. And then Cash pulls Big Bill outside and throws him into the ring post, and follows that up with a fairly nice tornado DDT, off of the apron that kind of takes Big Bill out of the rest of the match. And then there's a pretty interesting way that they end up setting up Shatter Machine with Brian Keith. They kind of throw him at the ropes and then both duck under. And then when he comes back, they hit Shatter Machine, and it was good. But there was a nice point in the middle, or sorry, not the middle, but near the end, where I'm like, wow, they're making it look like Bill and Keith can beat FTR, and that's kind of the water line, right? Like if you can beat somebody like the Bucks or FTR, then you're legitimized as a tag team. And so I felt like it did a good job of putting over the two members of the Learning Tree that are not Chris Jericho,
Yeah.
without necessarily having them jump too far ahead by, straight up beating FTR, but they got close. So I feel about that match a little bit like I feel about the Bucks versus Private Party, which, as I mentioned before, some people are really not happy with Private Party not winning, but I think it would have been too soon and too pat. It's like the second they get a push, suddenly they're beating the best tag teams ever. That would have been too quick. So this was just a nice match with some good action between Big Bill and Brian Keith versus FTR, and it helped legitimize Big Bill and Brian Keith as a tag team. So, very, very good match to start the show.
I agree.
But after the match is when the real fun begins, because the Outrunners come out and they celebrate with FTR, thus a brief reunification of FTR runners. And they celebrate in the ring together, giving us all of the 1980s awesomeness that is the Outrunners, mixed in with
Yeah.
FTR's theme song sort of reminds me of, it gives me Miami Vice vibes.
Yeah.
So it's like both of these teams kind of have like sort of an 80s thing going on, and so them together is just it's fan service, and I mark out for it. I really like it.
Literally, like they own Outrunners legit only came out for fan service. Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd just came out to strike some poses and get the audience screaming and excited, and that was it. Like I'm here for it. I liked it.
Yep, no complaints. Fan service good.
Yeah.
It was what you came to see.
I know what we didn't come to see. We'll talk about that in a second.
That's coming up. However, for now, we're in a good spot. We've got FTR catching a win and the Outrunners celebrating with them, and that gets a nice good bit of hype going for the beginning of the show. And
Then we had a little short promo after that.
Go ahead.
From the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass with Renee Pickett. And I mean, I think Daddy Ass was like they were going to the gym, so he went to go get the car. Bowens started cutting his promo, basically the same thing. Everybody loves them wherever they are. And I don't even know if I don't even know if Caster had anything to say, but MVP broke it up.
He did.
He came out of nowhere, and he wanted the Acclaim to know that when they're ready to be serious, that he'll be there. And he gives them his card. And Caster takes the card and puts it in his pocket, but Bowens says that they don't need anything from MVP, which MVP thought was hilarious. And then him and Shelton walked off camera. But I thought it was interesting to note again that Caster put the card in his pocket. So
he did. And Caster did have a little something to say. Caster, of course, revealed that they beat MXM Collection, and he's got his new jacket back, and he's the greatest wrestler in the world. I don't dislike you, Max Caster. I do think you're a very good wrestler, but you are not one of those people who can say they're the greatest wrestler in the world and make me believe it. Right now, I think that distinction falls to Will Ospreay, and that might only be challenged. I mean, we'll have to see how Ricochet comes up, but Ricochet's been doing pretty good against him. I'm still not putting him on that level of Ospreay yet, but and Lord knows if Kenny Omega can get back in to fighting fit and healed up, then those two would be the contenders. We'll see how it shakes out. But right now, there's one wrestler, and that is Will Ospreay, who can say that, and I don't just one more of these guys that are saying that shit.
I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but there's at least 3 off the top of my head that I could think of that I would consider better wrestlers than Max Caster. MJF is one. Yeah. MJF. Will Ospreay. Got Kenny Omega, Ricochet. I'm sorry. I think Ricochet is a little bit better than Max Caster, but Again, I'm not trying to dog him. He's a great wrestler. I just don't know where the greatest wrestler of all time comes from. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know about that. That's
yeah.
all I'm
Oh,
saying. That's all I'm saying.
hey,
Have
I
your
totally,
confidence.
I totally get bravado. I get it. But all I'm
Yeah.
saying is that there's one guy who says it and I believe it. And everybody else who's saying it is just talking some trash.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
that said, the bigger point here is that, like you said, Castor took the card and put it in his pocket, even though Bowen said they don't need it. And I could
hmm
see that developing because, I mean, here you have the Acclaimed, who is probably one of the top three tag teams. I mean, you got the Bucks, you got FTR, and then I think the Acclaimed is probably like right behind, that group. But those are
yeah.
the ones that are kind of in the, top tag sphere. But in this last pay per view, the Acclaimed wrestled on 0 Hour against MXM. And I'm not saying that's a bad match. MXM is delightfully entertaining and they're very good in the ring. But I mean, can you imagine, like in the kayfabe? I can't imagine Acclaimed is pleased that they're on 0 Hour while Private Party is wrestling the Bucks for the belts. So I
Yeah.
could absolutely see Platinum Max Caster being like, "Yeah, MVP, I think we could use your help because look, we were on freaking 0 Hour at the pay per view against MXM Collection while Private Party was wrestling the Young Bucks,
Yeah.
and we could have a story arc there."
Yeah. I think so. Is it
But
time?
it is time after all that excitement, and I will say that Platinum Max Caster is definitely a better wrestler than what's coming up next. Um,
All
we are
right.
brought to the AEW TBS Championship with Mercedes Monet, with Camille versus Queen Aminata. The only portion of this match that I was happy to see, uh, but
I
even
was
that I
semi
don't think
happy to
could save
see,
it.
but I was semi happy to see her. But you know what? Here's my critique. This was the second match of the night, and I think you said that. And this was supposed to be for the AEW TBS Championship. Now, I already knew that there was no exchanging of that championship between Mercedes Monet and Queen Amanada. I already knew that. What I was looking for, however, was a good match. And I knew that 50% of this match sucked. I'm sorry. You guys, I have no qualms about telling you Mercedes Monet is the weakest female wrestler I have seen in a very long time. And I do not like anything that she is doing in the ring. Not her stupid dance, not her stupid outfits, not her stupid finishers or signatures or whatever you want to call them. Not here for it. Sorry, you fight me. I'm. That's how I feel about it. Camille has added nothing to Mercedes, and I think it's really sad that they even had to add somebody that they would call the quote unquote muscle for Mercedes Monet. Let that wash over you. Homegirl is tired when she gets to the ring because she's carrying two belts. She should probably give one of them to Camille, and maybe then she can get there faster and do a dumb dance. Now that I'm done with that, let's get to Queen Amanada. You guys know that I love me some Queen Amanada. You know that I have been a mark for her for quite some time. I'll get in here and talk about how great of a wrestler she is. However, there are some moves that she did on Dynamite that get on. They what how should I say it? Uh, they grind my gears. Okay, they they chap my hide. Okay, they pet my peeve. Here are some of the moves that she does that pets my freaking peeve. You're in there for a championship match. You think you got time to rub your ass on a chick's face? Okay. Alright, sure. Hey, listen, you can grind your ass on my face if you like. I
Oh
legit.
Lord, oh Lord, there it is. Yeah,
Hold on. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But what, like, it's a really cute
you're
move.
not kidding.
I got it. No, I'm not. But it's a really cute move. I get it. Sure. But you're in a championship match right now. Also, number two, that rolling cradle that she
Hmm.
does, where she's going around and around in circles. Okay, now maybe you're doing that because your opponent is a weak sheep and she can't do much of anything but spin around. I don't know. Um, but I hate it. I don't like the move. I'm not sure what you're supposed to be doing. I think you're supposed to be confusing your opponent, and I don't know if you're thinking. I mean, I don't know if that's working, sweetheart, because I think your opponent knows how to go into a circle. I think she knows that she's sitting on the mat, and I don't think you spinning her around 4 or 5 times makes her go, "Where the hell am I?" So I don't know how accurate your confusing tactic is. But I know that it looks dumb. I know that. Um, so not here for it. I am happy that Monet seems to be going back to her what is it called? The backstabber and the statement maker, I think is what she calls it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the fact that she's going back to that. I think it used to be called something else. I don't remember. Um, and then
It's
and then go ahead.
I was just going to say she's calling it the statement maker because it's her finisher from being Sasha Banks back in WWE, which was called the
Right.
Bank
Bank
Statement.
statements. Yes.
And,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, so I don't know. She's a CEO. Maybe she could call it the hostile takeover or something more in line with her new character's
But you're
theme.
asking her to be creative, and she can only do that when it comes to her outfits. So, she forces Amanada to tap in this match because her statement maker is so powerful, that Amanada's chin and neck just can't handle it, and she has to tap out too strong. Uh, so, to this match.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, Mercedes Monet won. Uh, eh. And yeah, I think everybody can agree that the takeaway here is people are pretty happy that she tried another finisher and not her old one. Because it looks dumb and it would have looked extremely dumb on Amanada because you know damn well that Mercedes Monet could not have gotten her off the ground. So I'm glad
Yeah.
that she went somewhere else. Uh, I have been up on the women's matches as of late, like the past 2 or 3 podcasts. I've had really good things to say. We're back to form on this one. I have nothing good to say about it except for the fact that Monet was smart enough not to use her new finisher or her one that she came to AEW with and went back to some of her old ones because the one that she was doing here was lame. That's the only good thing I have to say. I was disappointed in Amanada's performance here. Of course, I'm disappointed with Monet. Camille is got to be the most annoying part of this entire thing. I'm so sorry. I don't understand her purpose. She has yet to show me that she is a powerhouse. I'm not sure what the personality is that they gave her. It was almost like they told her to act like a chick from the Bronx or something. I don't know. And
Yeah.
you are not from the Bronx, darling. You're from New Hampshire or some shit. Don't come at me like you're fucking New Jersey. I don't know you like that. Nah, nah. No, like, nah. So, yeah. Uh, that's all I gotta say about that. Boop, boop.
Yeah, just to throw in my 2 cents. One, there's some issues. I will say this wasn't the smoking hole in the ground. It wasn't. It was the weakest match of the night, but it wasn't a complete abortion. And I'll say that because nobody screwed anything up. However, creatively, I just don't feel like Monet is bringing much to the table. I feel like when I watch Monet wrestle, like I'm watching 15 different variations and only slight ones at that of a Meteora. Like 88% of her move
Oh my
set is
god. You
Meteora.
know what? You're right. Yes.
And that's driving me nuts. Like, please, for the love of God, learn some other move besides the Meteora and like one of your finishers. Um, I mean, it really feels that way. She's so reliant on some form of a Meteora for like almost all of her offense that anything that's not terrifically awful about a Monet match might be coming from her opponent because her offense is terrible.
Yeah.
Um, and I agree with you. Aminata is a tall woman, and she's got long legs that looks like she could kick the life out of you. She's also shown us that she can throw several of these women around quite capably, like with German suplexes and snap suplexes. She's got a fantastic throw of the Glasgow Kiss, as I kind of pointed out that the Glasgow Kiss seems to be like a new hot move for women to take over and do. Um, and so I really don't think it's good for her to rely on kind of silly moves, which are the two that you pointed out. Like even if she kept the like rub my butt in your face thing, because it's like, okay, we're all watching because we know Aminata's hot. Okay, we get it. The incredibly stupid rolling cradle feels like it's some infection she caught from having had a match or two with Serena Deeb.
Yeah.
And for the same reasons that we don't like the stupid moves that Deeb does, I don't want to see stupid moves coming out of Aminata. She needs to come out there and be dominant because
Yeah.
she's big enough to be dominant in this women's division. So, like, if she wants to pick up moves, pick up choke slams, pick up anything that's heavier
Please and
than
thank
a
you.
stupid rolling cradle, right?
Yes,
Because you're
please.
big enough to pull off those kind of moves, like suplex the life out of women, something. But don't go that route of being silly, especially when you're still trying to come up,
Yeah.
because then you'll get stuck in silly and that will be like a death knell. So
I,
seriously, you turn the hell away from being a goofball in the ring, Aminata. You absolutely need to come out there and just be a dominating force.
yeah, I feel like they've been telling her to uh like dumb it down on some matches, honestly, because she comes out there sometimes and depending on who she's wrestling, she wrestles like she just learned how to wrestle 2 weeks ago. Like she comes
Yeah.
out there and she kid gloves everybody that she's dealing with. Like, you know what I mean? Pretty much the same critique that I had for Willow a couple of years ago is what I have for Amanada now. And on top of that, uh the goofy got to go. Like
Yeah.
one and only. You are the
Yep.
one and only. You should be a powerhouse when you come out there. We've
Yep.
seen you do it. We've seen you do it.
Hmm.
So it's almost as if she was placating her opponent. It was almost as if she had to dumb down her moves so as not to hurt Monet. And I'm not saying Monet is glass bones or nothing, but I'm just trying to come up with a reason, an excuse as to why she wouldn't big boot uh uh uh
Mercedes into the
Monet,
stratosphere.
yeah, into the sun, or why she wouldn't power slam her like so high that she says, hello to the face of God right before she slammed into the bowels of hell. Like what do we do?
Yep.
No, we're gonna put her in our legs and spin her around on the mat.
Yeah.
Okay.
When whether it's fair or not, notwithstanding, women in wrestling trying to be taken seriously is an uphill battle. So falling into the failure state of being silly is no go. You have
Yeah.
to come out there and you got to be hard. Aminata, if
And
you're
I get it.
studying anyone, go look at Rhea Ripley. Go look at Becky
Yeah.
Lynch. I mean, like, these are the women you need to be emulating because you're big enough to be that kind of woman. Look at Bianca Belair. Look at Jade Cargill. You don't need goofy. You need powerhouse. Look at Lash Legend recently
Yeah.
with like two members of Metaphor showing up and being absolutely dominating. So, and this is also not for nothing. This is AEW, quote unquote, where the best wrestle. Sorry. And that being said, what AEW does that puts them, that's their strong suit is that the work rate, the in ring is top notch. So that's
Yeah.
the level that folks have to get to. That's why Mercedes Monet isn't going over with her weak in ring work. Now,
Yeah.
that said, I agree with you that it feels like Aminata is kind of dumbing it down. We're in a weird situation where Queen Aminata is the relative rookie and she is giving their veterans the rub. And I don't understand how we got there. Like, why is Aminata having to give the rub to freaking Serena Deeb or Britt Baker or Mercedes Monet? It's because these are women that have tenure, but they don't have talent. They can't pull it off in the ring.
Yeah.
Queen Aminata does not need to be the one giving these chicks the rub. It should be the other way around. So instead, they're in fact kind of burying their hot new young talent, which is Queen Aminata, to try and put over these like has-beens and currently never are or never were, like Mercedes Moné. I'm sorry, she was great in WWE, I guess. Now it's got me questioning it because her showing in AEW has been so freaking piss poor that I'm like,
Yeah,
was she ever really that good? So we are in a weird place where they're using Queen Aminata to give their top talent the rub because apparently she's such a decent rookie that they can put her in there with their talents and she's not dangerous to them. But she, for some reason, is giving them the rub. And I just don't see how that's supposed to be working out. Um, and then as far as Camille goes, I'm in agreement with you. She hasn't shown like the one or two singles matches we've seen with her didn't look that good. The one time Camille has been made to look kind of dominant in the ring was when she stepped in there with Chris Statlander and kind of brought it to Chris. And that's it. That's the
yeah,
first time she's looked like this powerhouse they're trying to convey. And I
yeah.
feel like Camille is sitting in that same bucket that Raquel Rodriguez is sitting in since she got with Liv Morgan.
Which is
And it's
exactly
like,
why I'm trying to figure out why WWE thought it was a good idea to duplicate that storyline.
well, I mean, they all copy each other's homework, but the point being is that if you're going to put somebody in that role, they have to be dominant. Like you're
Yeah,
calling back to like Shawn Michaels having Diesel as his bodyguard, and Diesel legitimately is one of the most dominating big men in the game that ever existed. And then you're also calling back to MJF and Wardlow would go on powerbomb symphonies. So this is what you're competing with, Camille and Raquel, and you're going to have to step it up if that's the role you're trying to be put in. And
absolutely.
I'm not seeing it with Raquel, and I'm similarly not seeing it yet with Camille. They're both going to have to show me something. Show me how you are so dominant, and kind of to pivot from that, like that's the assessment with how they've decided to go. But I agree with you that it was probably not a great idea when Mercedes Monet's work rate is a huge part of her problem to then have somebody basically show up to do her job for her.
Yeah,
That just fuels into that even more. Not even a kayfabe in storyline thing, but like, yeah, it kind of confirms that Mercedes really can't go in that ring anymore. That they threw somebody out there to basically fight on her behalf. So those are my tips for how this could all be improved. I figured that's more useful than me just crapping all over them all over again. Queen
yeah,
Aminata, just to sum it up, Queen Aminata, don't go with silly, stupid moves. Leverage the fact that you're one of the bigger women in the division and be a powerhouse, be dominant. Mercedes, learn something beyond like 15 different flavors of Meteora for the love of God and diversify your offense. It is boring to watch, it is
yeah,
dull. Now, I'm glad that you switched back to kind of the backstabber into the bank statement or statement maker or whatever you're calling it. That's better for you, but the whole rest of your offense needs to support getting to that move because
yeah,
that by itself, getting a win, starts to feel a little weird, especially against somebody like Queen Aminata, who is so much more physically dominant over you that it's insane. Like, get us there. Get us to a place where I believe you have kicked the crap out of somebody enough that by the time you lock in the statement maker, I could conceivably see a tap out. And as far as Camille, you're going to have to look vastly more dominant than you do for the role that you've been placed in. Those are my tips. That's how you could make it better, in my opinion.
yeah.
But we aren't there yet, and this match was weak.
And in my opinion, for Amanada, how you can make it better is to finish your contract with AEW or whoever you're with, and if they aren't re-signing you, go to WWE. I don't usually make that prediction or or select that advice, but I don't know what they're gonna do with the women's division in AEW, but it's they have good wrestlers. They have a few good wrestlers, and then no storyline, no heat, and no direction. I just don't see one. And I can't say that it's that much better in WWE, but here's what I can say. The last two or three matches that I've seen from the women at WWE were spectacular. They looked good. And not only did they look good, but they were presented very well. So the presentation or the representation for women, female wrestlers in WWE, I'm starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm getting excited about it. And I think somebody like Amanada in that dynamic would flourish. So if
It
nothing
depends.
changes, if nothing gets better, then I would suggest you go to WWE. And you're right, it does depend. But right now, the dynamic of the women or the female wrestlers in WWE, I think Amanada would work well in. But
I'm
I don't know.
I'm sure she would do all right. But their Queen Aminata would be one more kind of Jack Black woman, and they seem to have a fair number of those. Whereas over here in AEW, Queen Aminata is a standout. The reason I gave
Yeah,
the advice I did with regards to her is that AEW, if they want their women's division to survive, are going to need women like Queen Aminata to build it on the backs of. And like she is absolutely the future of the women's division in AEW. In
she is.
WWE, I think she could get lost in the shuffle. I mean, they've got some really good women over there. And I'm not saying it's not a great division to be in, but here she is absolutely standout. And it should be an absolute priority for AEW to be working on and building up their women's division because it's currently their biggest weakness. And
Yeah,
so that is where they need to put the help. And Queen Aminata is absolutely a woman who could be here in the relative ground floor because their division has still got a long way to go that could build on the back of the women's division in AEW. So she could be a pivotal component if she's interested in doing so over on AEW. Whereas I'm a little worried that with women like Lash Legend and Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, Aminata could get lost in the shuffle over there. I mean, maybe
um,
I'm wrong. Maybe she steps up and outshines all of them, but I definitely think, if assuming AEW sees that their women's division is where their weakness is at and that it needs a lot of work, Queen Aminata is a building block on which you could make the foundation of your women's division. She's absolutely one of those women that you have that could do that.
I agree. I just don't think they'd use her like that. I think that there are people, are women in AEW that are a tad bit, and I don't want to get into the weeds here because we are a podcast that mainly talks about the shows and not like backstage drama or anything like that. But I will say that I feel that there are some very toxic women in higher positions that are very adamant that they are the star of the show, and it's not just like it's not. Again, this is my opinion, and but it's not just kayfabe. It's the general personality and vibe that comes off backstage sometimes when it comes to the women. I don't think in that dynamic because I don't see that changing. Because AEW ain't making any moves for that to change. They're protecting they're like they and I'm not talking noise about that either. I'm saying that they are very protective of their superstars, and they will like it's not like a boy, I
Yeah.
really don't know how to say it. I'm not trying to come off as a bitch, but I'm saying that there are some people backstage that like they feel like they are the star of the channel.
Yeah,
And
I'll be happy to speak to it. Frankly, I think Britt Baker, Mercedes Monet, and like the Professor all probably are holding back that women's division right now because they so can't get it done in the ring. I
yeah,
really
and
think a move away from Monet and Baker and like Dweeb all would be good because there's better women who are better talents with better physiques that they could build, the wrestling division up on. And I really do think those three are holding it back. Um, because when you try and give pushes to these women, it just leads to weak sauce matches. Like these are women that are more like would be great in the Divas era when you want somebody who looks like a skinny little runway model. But if you're actually trying to make a women's wrestling division I need to see women who look like they can actually do some wrestling moves and not the least that they can possibly get away with because I don't know, they're fragile, they're thin, something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, I'll take that stand. I'll be happy to do so because I do think that instead of enhancing that division, they are taking away from it and holding it back.
Yeah. So I said all that to say that you're saying that if she went to WWE, she could just fade away or fall into the cracks. And I kind of feel like if she stays in AEW, the same would happen, except her career would just be her jobbing. I mean, where's Abaddon? Where's like I man, I could go on because I'm thinking about all the really good female wrestlers that I've seen in AEW that just
They
kind
don't get a
of
push.
don't get a push, man. They go back to other less watched or less viewed wrestling shows and I mean or promotions. And I mean that's cool. I'm not dogging them either. Do what you love and wherever you get the opportunity to do so. But I am saying that there are really talented women that I just don't get a chance to see in AEW except for one or two times, and then they disappear, and then I'm left watching Britt Baker stick her fingers in another woman's mouth, and I'm supposed to believe that that's destroying her. Um, I'm watching D fold a woman up apparently, tie her up in a knot, and then sit on her, uh, like she's a chair, and I'm supposed to believe that you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
No, it's terrible.
so I get it. Yeah, you're right. She could get lost in the shuffle. I just don't think she would right now in WWE. I think that given the women that are on top right now, she would fit in just fine. And maybe I don't know how long that's gonna last. I don't know. But right now, they have some dynamic women of color, and they have some pretty decent representation popping off in WWE. Meanwhile, Amanada is jobbing to women half her size and strength.
Yeah.
She's being folded up like a pretzel by a woman who I don't think could lift an actual pretzel. So, uh, you see
Yeah.
what I'm
No, I
saying?
agree with you. I
So
do.
it's I
If
guess
I'm,
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in this situation. Because I mean, I don't know what's going on backstage. WWE could be pretty toxic for women. I don't
yeah,
know.
I don't
I'm
know.
not hearing those stories. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. But
No, I agree with your perspective in that if Queen Amanada wanted to do what was probably best for her, then you might be right. Then taking it over to to WWE, even if she starts out on NXT, she'll be wrestling some of the best women in the game, including
yeah,
the two gals from Metaphor. They
yep.
just recently acquired Julia and Stephanie Vacour. And so there is a very strong women's division, particularly in NXT, but also on the main roster. So she would definitely be playing with the people that are at the top of the game right now. Though the women's
Wait,
division in WWE, bar none, is superior to what AEW is giving us.
did you
I was
say
simply,
did you just say that they acquired Julia?
yeah.
Like who? Julia Hart?
No, the wrestler. No, no, no. This is a wrestler whose name looks like it's spelled like
Oh,
Julia, but it's pronounced
oh yes.
Julia.
Okay,
And
all right. I'm with you.
there's a
I'm with
whole
you.
run going on in NXT. I know we don't talk about NXT, but over there right now, Julia and Stephanie Vacour are giving a run for their money to like Roxanne Perez
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
I'm blanking on the other gal's name, but it's kind of a big program over there. And we have watched over the past couple of weeks that the WWE Women's Champions Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill have had one of their best matches come from uh, two of the members of Meta 4. We
Yeah.
understand now why it's called Meta 4. There are
Yeah.
in fact four of them, but the other two members are males that are
Oh,
over on
Yeah, no,
NXT.
I knew that. I was making a joke last podcast. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I did not know that at the time because, like I said, I don't really watch NXT.
I
But
only knew that because I saw their opener once. And
oh, okay,
when we saw Metaphor when it was just the two women, they had the split screen.
yeah,
I saw that with all four of them once, and I thought it looked really cool because it reminded me of like a superhero promo or something.
yeah.
Yeah,
But these two from Metaphor are absolutely outstanding. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend made a huge impact on the main roster, and I would love to see that go somewhere sooner rather than later because they were amazing.
hmm
Like, so the women's division is very, very much stronger on WWE right now. So it really like arguing from the perspective of what would probably be better for Queen Aminata herself. I don't disagree with you. Maybe a trip to WWE would be good for her. But arguing from like AEW really needs their women's division to come up and who could they do that with? That was my position. Queen Aminata
yeah,
is absolutely their 5-star gold standard. Her and like Chris Statlander and Willow, those are the women, that you can build this division up with. Right now, I told you the three that I think are holding it back.
yeah,
And, it would be absolutely worth it for AEW to like triple down on pushing Queen Aminata and making her like the division leader. Mariah May is no slouch, even though I don't love that like everything good about her seems to be being portrayed as everything she took from Tony Storm.
yeah.
Because I think that's kind of like you built her up, but now you're sort of burying her again. Um, so hopefully, if AEW is going to be able to build up their women's division, they're going to have to be able to hang on to the good talents and start recognizing and acting on the ones that are holding the whole dang thing back. And just
Yeah.
really put some effort there because that truly is kind of the weakest link in AEW's scheme right now. Like their women's division just can't even step into the same arena as what WWE's women's division is capable of. And that's a real weak spot that they need to be making mad effort to, and it can't just be because it doesn't work, right? Like let's go hire an old new name. How did that work out for you with CM Punk? And it's not working out here with Mercedes Moné. Like you're going to have to start getting real critical about who's bringing it. Like your kayfabe right now is that that's exactly what John Moxley's take is on it. So it
Yeah.
actually needs to be AEW's behavior if they're going to continue to make the statement that this is where the best wrestle. They're going to
Which they
have
make
to
that statement
a lot.
freaking every episode. Two or three
Yep.
people.
So moving on from that particular match, we are once again in the back with Rennie Packets, and she is talking to Private Party, and Private Party is letting us know that they are absolutely wanting another shot at the titles against the Young Bucks. And that's when the Young Bucks actually kind of step into frame. And Matt goes on to say, look, I made a mistake. They're more than a mid-card act, but that was their last chance at these titles because according to the Bucks, never again, ever, 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 never. And so the Bucks then walk off, and then Stokely Hathaway appears out of nowhere, but like we knew he was going to, right? And he says the next time that they challenge for the titles and they lose, they're done. Besides, everyone knows Isaiah is the single star. So Stokely comes in to kind of gloat because they lost, and apparently that is exclusively because they turned him down for representation. And then
Yeah.
he like throws this little seed of dissension in there to try and break them up. So not sure where that's going. And I'm not sure I yet really super care because I know they're trying to push Private Party, but I'm still not that interested in Private Party. And I'm definitely not interested at all in Stokely Hathaway. So they're going to have to continue to do more to make that a story arc that I give a damn about.
Not wrong.
And then we cut to the elites being there, which basically means that the Young Bucks took 5 steps to the right from where they just were. Um, and Jack Perry says today's a special day in AEW history. It's Kenny Omega's birthday. And he reminds us that Omega had 20 feet of his intestines removed, so they got him a cake that says "Happy Birthday, Kenny," before they dump like a pile of just random offal on top of the cake. And then Okada says, "Happy birthday, bitch," and "Get well soon, Kenny, or die. Perry doesn't care." Um, and I thought that, cool little shout out to Kenny Omega. A little weird that you dumped like every organ except like a huge pile of intestines. Like I would think a
Yeah.
huge pile of intestines would have sent the point more, I guess, poignantly.
I guess maybe they couldn't find any intestines. I
Yeah,
don't know.
but
But
we
they
got
were
some
like, yeah,
kidneys and heart and
yeah,
chicken
take this
bones and
liver. Ha ha.
yeah, liver.
Take it. Yeah. So, Perry doesn't care though, and sure. Uh,
Yeah,
af-
methinks thou doth protest too much, the entire elite. I mean, I know you were
yeah,
more or less just finding a way to tell your friend happy birthday, but in the kayfabe,
yeah.
it looks a little like you do care because you went out of your way. So I'm pretty sure when Kenny is able to make a comeback, and I'm going to say when because I don't want to if that. I want Kenny Omega to make a comeback. God damn it. And when he does, he's going to dismantle the elite. And so you better care.
Yeah, yeah. Elite.
Yeah.
Take that.
Be the elite while
Yeah,
you
delete the
can.
elite.
Yeah, they're gonna delete the elite. Now that's how you get Matt Hardy back.
Nah.
Um,
Okay.
and that brings us to match 3, which is the conglomeration versus the elite.
Yeah,
And
so they took
this
another 6 steps,
they
and
took
they
6 steps this time
yeah,
towards
they
the
were
ring.
very very busy. They were doing a triangle that night.
the elite triangle.
Yeah.
Um, that's definitely superior to an equilateral.
Oh,
Sorry,
ooh.
triangle puns. That's not
Oh
right.
boy. Oh, stop it.
I was just
You
trying to
and
be cute.
oh,
Maybe some people didn't get it. They're too obtuse. Um,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
yeah, my bad. So moving
Some-
on
Sometimes
rapidly.
he makes these jokes, but he's really just a square.
So moving on, we have the conglomeration versus the elite, and there's no title or anything on the line. It's just expected to be a good match, and it was. This is the members of the conglomeration present are Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and this is kind of the weaker link for me right now. Azucar Rocky Romero.
Azúcar.
And for the most part, I like everyone in the conglomeration, but I'm not sold that Rocky Azucar Romero is doing anything here, but kind of like detracting from the love of the conglomeration that I have.
I mean, I really, you know what? Here's my problem with Mr. Rocky Azucar. Why you got an eye patch on? Why does he
Yeah,
wear?
why? Why
Why
does he
you?
have an eye patch
Hey,
on?
hey, why for you wear an eye patch? And then when you get in the ring, why for you take eye patch off? You didn't need it. Why was you wearing that eye patch? What's under that eye patch? I need answers because I have a very close friend who has an eye patch. He lost eye in war, and I need to know why you wearing an eye patch. I need the answers.
That seems fair. That seems
Yeah.
fair. But despite the fact that I am not over the moon about Rocky Romero, this did end up being a heck of a match. I mean,
True.
I would absolutely love to see, and just to be even-handed here, the members of the Elite are the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada, and so we have a lot of potential right here. Like this is the stick of dynamite with a fuse, and this could go off. This is good stuff. And to his credit, Rocky Romero did okay with the things he was doing. Much like I said that like Mercedes needs something other than a Meteora, Rocky could use a few more moves besides a Hurricane Rana, but at least he hit an assisted slice bread on the Bucks. And there was some cool high spots. There was a point where the Elite got all three members of the conglomeration laid out kind of in a line, and they did like simultaneously. They all hit over the, off of the ring apron sentons, um, and that was pretty cool. And I want to say there was another big high spot in that match before the events near the end of the match took place. Let's see. There was a really cool move where Rocky went for sliced bread, but Okada countered it directly into a tombstone.
Yes.
And that was really sweet, like, because he countered, like, just, it was a very smooth counter into it, and then, like, without hesitation, he dropped Rocky Romero into the tombstone, and I was like, well, bye, sugar. And the match, I feel like, was going to really start cooking right at that moment, because, it resulted in, like, kind of a double Hurricane Rana by Cassidy into a Stun Dog Millionaire on Okada, and it was really starting to cook. But out of nowhere, you get the invasion by the Moxley crew, starting with Wheeler Yuta coming in for an attack, and then that kind of gets the DQ, so it's a no contest match. And then Claudio and Pac show up, and then there's Moxley, and nobody was pleased by this because it intruded on a very good match. Not to mention that Moxley is got mega heat right now for what he did to Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, no, the hate is real on Moxley.
Yeah, big time. And so the Elite sort of roll out of the ring and kind of stand watching the events unfold on the entrance ramp. And essentially, Moxley and his crew are just demolishing the conglomeration. And in particular, Cassidy is getting the beat down. And so Top Flight then kind of runs out. And they all run past the Elite, like, are you just going to watch this? And so they get in there and they get demolished.
All right.
So like Moxley's crew is seemingly having no issue fending off like these guys because they're coming out like almost one at a time, like these groups. Like they dismantled Top Flight. I think Darius ended up eating a Death Rider, and it's like, well, bye. And then the Dark Order. Yeah. And then Dark Order hits the ring and attempts to fight him off, and that doesn't work. And the whole time, again, the Elite are just kind of standing there watching this all unfold. And Moxley's crew pretty much are disposing of everyone. You've got Marina Shafir hanging Alex Reynolds of the Dark Order, like, from the ring post. Like, she grabbed, I don't know if it was a belt or a piece of cord, but she's trying to hang him off the corner. And Moxley ends up picking up the mic and he says, if you're involved in AEW at all, you're under attack. If you don't like what happened on Saturday night, or if you don't like this, then you need to understand this is just the cost of doing business.
Whatever that
and
means.
Yeah, again, more kind of cryptic. It's like, okay, so this was the moment that kind of made me feel like Moxley's crew is trying to be the invading NWO, like from back in the day, and he's declared war on AEW. He just hasn't declared whether they're still the Blackpool Combat Club, or, like, I like to call them, the Moxley crew, or whatever, or if they're, if they're just going to straight up call themselves the NWO at this point. Like, I don't know. I don't think Eric Bischoff would love that. But it very much has that vibe with him and his crew showing up and declaring war on the entirety of AEW. It feels like that.
Yeah.
And so then we cut to the back, and the Elite are saying it's none of their business, and Daniel Garcia shows up with Private Party and says if they cared about this company, they would have helped out, but they didn't. And
Over than Jack Perry got into Garcia's face like an impetulant six-year-old child and spoke with his forehead. Gave him the whole forehead push. Get out of my parents' face, you know?
Yeah, that I don't think that worked out for Jack Perry because, like, if I remember correctly, Garcia pushed right back, and like,
Yeah.
like Jack Perry is not a physically imposing individual. Like you
No.
don't even physically intimidate Garcia, and you both are in the I don't even weigh 200 pounds club.
I'm not gonna. Hey, they can get in the ring. I actually think that Garcia would win that. I mean, if we were looking at it realistically, but if we're gonna go with kayfabe, I'm sure that Jack Perry will wind his way into a win. But I I I I think that if they were literally gonna have like a match, like and be realistic about it, Daniel Garcia should win that match.
Yeah, but all of this is sort of a continuation of like when the Moxley crew, after the end of Bryan Danielson's match, were going in on him. That like the entire AEW locker room came out there to get all of them off of Bryan. And this is a continuation of that. Here you see another emptying of the AEW locker room to try and stop what Moxley's crew is doing. And this isn't the end of it for the night, but it's definitely continuing this idea that Moxley has declared war on the entire AEW locker room.
Yeah.
But that particular segment ends up with the Elite walking away, and Garcia ends up mentioning to Private Party, who were there with him, that he's got their back if they have his, and they shake hands.
Yeah. Which was nice, you know. I saw. I'm assuming that some of what John Moxley's point is, or some of his mission, is to get some of the mid card talent up. Um, and okay, I'm there for it.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
agree. Like it. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that was it. I mean, I was just basically saying yeah, and preparing to listen to what you're about to say. But yeah, I'm interested in where they go. I've seen enough as of late from Private Party to keep an eye on them, to be interested in what they're bringing to the table. Um, and Garcia, Daniel Garcia, I became a fan of quite some time ago because he is a much more technical version of Darby Allin in the sense that he just does not give up. Uh, and he's good. He's good in the ring. He really is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm here. I'm here to see more of them.
Well,
I'm here for it.
to to kind of speak to your take on Garcia, I agree. They've recent like I don't know if it was Garcia's doing or if he got some advice or whatnot, but his feud with MJF put Garcia over, which is good. That's what we're going to be thanking MJF for later. Um, and for Garcia, he has added some very excellent moves to his repertoire that have like up to the excitement. Like his spinning neck breaker, over and over is very good. I like that. And he looks like he's more vicious now, and that's
Yeah,
also good. This is a good example of the advice I was trying to give to Queen Aminata. Go that route, get more vicious, make sure you're adding moves to your work rate and your in ring that are high impact, that people really pop for, and that don't slow the match to a grinding stop. Less rest holds, less long strike battles, that kind of crap, but like high impact moves that really get people's hearts racing is the name of the game here in AEW. Like their wheelhouse is those big 6-man matches where it can become just a long string of high spot after high spot after high spot after high spot. And I know there's a lot of voices out there that like to complain about that. They're like, well, you just keep pushing the bar further. There's nowhere to go up from here. And I don't think we've gotten there. And I disagree. I think the matches should be exciting and you should have a lot of high spots. And I think that's what has put AEW on the map. That's why they're the challenger brand to WWE. It's
yeah,
one of the reasons that I watch AEW, and it's one of the things I like that the WWE can't meet them on. Like, I'm worried about Penta going over there, and he's not even able to do his package pile driver anymore, the Fear
yeah,
Factor. because Kevin Owens couldn't do that anymore when he went there, So I come to AEW to see that kind of stuff because you can't see that in WWE right now. So your work rate is like what makes or breaks you here.
Yeah,
Not that playing a character and conveying a storyline aren't valuable assets, but really what's your bread and butter, what sets AEW apart is that stuff that we can't see anywhere else.
I agree.
So that's where you need to focus your efforts. And Garcia seems to be making moves in that direction, and that's a good thing.
Hmm.
That said, we now come to the fourth match of the evening, which is the debut of the recently made All Elite Shelton Benjamin with MVP at ringside versus Leo Rush.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
just to kind of give a quick summary of how I felt about this match, one, Benjamin, I feel like looked pretty good, although he did have what looked to be like kind of a bad tumble. A little bit of a botch. There was a point where Leo Rush was doing an outside dive, a La Plancha through the middle rope, and the spot was for Shelton Benjamin to jump up on the apron and knee Leo Rush in the face. And he got most of that right. He did jump up and knee Leo Rush in the face, but I don't think he stabilized on the apron. He didn't quite get enough height, or maybe he was supposed to grab the ropes or something. So he ends up taking a really mean looking back bump as he falls backwards off the apron. Now he recovered it quick enough, but it looked like oof. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, the first part of the match I felt kind of was a little slow. Um, in that it didn't really get my heart racing. And I think it's because a lot of it was being maintained by more Leo Rush's like part to play in the offense. And
Yeah.
then later in the match, Benjamin takes over and starts, really hitting him with some power moves. There was one part where he threw Rush so hard into the corner that Rush literally
Sorry.
like ricocheted, no pun intended, but he ricocheted through the middle ropes and flopped outside the ring.
Like a
And
pinball, like a
we
like a
re-
like a.
we looked at that a couple of times because that had us rolling. I mean, it was mean looking, but just watching Rush kind of, yeah, like you said, ping pong between the ropes and then fly out the ring was brutal. And then you end up getting Benjamin once he was able to get in with the grapples, where he was able to suplex Rush a fair number of times. He started really looking dominant then. And if I had one complaint about this match, it's that you're trying to sell me that Shelton is like the gold standard athlete, right? Like that's his whole shtick. But he's going against one of, if not the smallest wrestlers in AEW in the first place. In the second place, this should have, for all intents and purposes, been essentially a squash match, and it ran on for way too long for that. And it doesn't sell me that Shelton Benjamin is like the most powerful individual in the world. He looks like he could be, though. I mean, his physique is fantastic.
Yeah.
But that it took him so long to beat like the smallest guy in AEW. I feel like this match could have been a whole lot shorter and have accomplished what we were trying to see, which is clearly that Shelton Benjamin, is a dominant force.
Yeah.
And I feel like that took too long to get to there, and it wasn't until the middle to end portion of the match that we really got to where I think this match was intending to go, which is to put Shelton Benjamin over as a mean dude. And some of his moves were mean. In addition to tossing Rush so hard out of the ring that he ping pong bounced, there was a point where Benjamin super kicked Leo Rush in such a fashion that I literally thought Rush was decapitated. Like that super kick looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then he follows that up with like some just killer suplexes. Like he hit him with an avalanche butterfly suplex. He hit him with, I'm pretty sure, a German suplex, a belly to belly suplex. And then he ended the match with what looked like it starts out like an exploder suplex, but he ends it in like a massive power slam I guess you could call it like an exploder slam or an exploder bomb, but that was a really cool move that looked
Yeah.
ferocious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so like if we had gotten to that a little bit quicker, I think it would have been good. I
Yeah,
think it would have
I'm with
been
you.
better than how long they dragged it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think the first part of this match went on a little too long. Actually, they didn't need it, I don't think. We were trying to establish that Shelton was, like you said, gold standard, and uh basically this should have been no competition for Shelton. It should have been, and no offense to Leo Rush, I mean, but it should have been Shelton coming in, wasting Leo Rush in maybe 5 to 6 moves, done. Uh, and that should have been it. Then, whatever happened at the end, which we're about to get to, of the match, happens, and we go on with our night. But I think the first part of them trying to establish that Leo Rush was not a slouch, we already know that, which is why it would have been impressive had Shelton Benjamin gotten to the ring 6 7 moves in, wasted Leo Rush, we're done. That would have been way more impressive than Shelton Benjamin weathering the storm of Leo Rush's attacks.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly think this would have been better done. Not that I don't like seeing Leo Rush, but they clearly didn't want to just bury Leo Rush in a squash match. But I think a squash match is what was needed here. Like, this is a good
Yeah.
time to use a squash match, so it would have been good if they'd have grabbed like a local talent or something along those lines. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they didn't have one, but this would have been better suited for Shelton Benjamin demolishing some quote unquote local talent if they didn't want to bury Leo Rush. Instead, I feel like they failed to make Shelton Benjamin look as dominant as I think they wanted to. Now, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, near the end of the match, he looked great, but it took us too long to get there
Yeah.
to reiterate. But again, that thrust kick he threw to Leo Rush was probably one of the meanest looking thrust kicks I've ever seen.
Yeah. No,
And
that
then
was a god awful.
and I mean not in a bad way. I
No,
don't
no, no,
think he
no.
flubbed the move. This isn't like Goldberg versus
Mm-mm.
what's his name? Bret Hart. I don't think he career ended Leo Rush. I think it just looked that damn good.
Yeah.
And I mean, woof. And then on top of that, the exploder bomb finish was fantastic as well. So I think if we could have gotten to what was basically the end sequence of that match much sooner, it would have been better for making Shelton Benjamin have the impact that I think they were going for. Instead, it looked like it took Shelton Benjamin a really long time to beat the smallest wrestler in AEW.
Yeah. Honestly, the point where MVP tells Benjamin that it's time to finish this, that is literally where the match should have started, and then it should have ended with the pop-up flatliner and the exploder bomb. That's it. So it should have been a release German suplex, maybe one or two. Um, yeah. Uh, one German suplex, another one, thrust kick, flatliner, exploder bomb. Done. That should have been the
Yeah.
match.
Yep, and I want to mention that German suplex because it was a big release German suplex. Now, unfortunately, the camera caught it straight on, so you didn't quite get to see from our perspective how far Leo Rush was chucked, but it was pretty far. So it was a fantastic big release German suplex. And in that regard, they could have had Benjamin come in here and effectively have the impact of like a Brock Lesnar, right? And
Yeah,
I think just because it took a little too long for us to get there, it kind of put some of that, it kind of cooled off some of that. Like I really, they didn't have any problems giving Wardlow like some squash matches. Like he'd
yeah,
come out and just destroy a guy in like 10 seconds. I kind of feel like that's where we should have gone with Shelton on this.
yeah. Because
That
what
said,
was the?
Shelton,
Sorry,
I was just going to say that said, Shelton did look very, very good,
he did.
save for maybe falling backwards off of the ring apron. He managed to save it, but like still, oof, that looked like it hurt. But otherwise, he looked fantastic.
I agree.
So
Yeah,
That's my only kind of advice slash criticism was that this could have looked even more so if Benjamin had just absolutely demolished his opposition.
I'm under the impression like you that this was supposed to be this was intended to be a squash match. And if that were the case, then there should have never been an opportunity where Rush gets a around the world DDT and then a 2 count. Like there should have never been a 2 count done on Benjamin if we're trying to do a squash match, because you're confusing me. Like, is this a heat match? Are we building heat between these two? I don't see that. I don't see that happening, because once he did his exploder bomb and finishes the match, Benjamin of course wins with that. MVP put his business card in Leo's trunks. So I don't think they're trying to have a match that's going to be building heat. They're not saying that these two are going to go at it again. So why the 2 count? I literally assume, I literally assumed that's a sentence. I assumed that the intent for this match was to make it was a squash match. Make Shelton Benjamin look alpha dog dominant, and he did so. He was supposed to destroy Leo Rush, but Leo Rush gave too much of a kickback. And if this was supposed to be a squash match, then I say again that around the world DDT by Rush should never have happened to the point that he gets a 2 count.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I agree. I agree. And I think that's just the gist of it. I think they didn't want to bury Rush completely, and I understand that, and that is
then I
why
agree
I
they should have
recommended
got
that
yes,
it
yes,
should have
yes.
been a local talent where
Yeah.
Benjamin could absolutely obliterate him, and it's not going to bury this guy into perpetuity because
Yeah.
he's not main roster talent. Um, you mentioned the finish where MVP put his card in Leo Rush's trunks. He also grabbed the mic, as MVP will always do,
Yeah.
and he lets the audience know that they know Swerve is watching and he should reconsider his position. Now, this is why I was complaining about this match. Because it took Shelton so long, as good as he looked, there's nothing about the fact that it took him nearly 20 minutes to defeat Leo Rush, one of the smallest wrestlers in the roster, that makes me think he has any business even looking at Swerve, let alone calling him out.
No. No.
You know what I mean? Because Swerve
Yeah.
has looked so freaking dominant that Benjamin would have had to come out and look way more dominant for me to believe that Swerve needs to reconsider anything.
Yeah.
And that was kind of why I was making an issue out of it, because if that's where you're going, you have not shown me anything that Swerve needs to worry about.
No.
Um,
I've seen Swerve staple gun himself in the chest. Uh, I've nothing that Shelton Benjamin did in the ring made me think, oh snap, he's gonna destroy. No, 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 no.
yeah,
You picked a guy. No offense, Leo Rush. Leo is really a great wrestler, and the first time I ever saw him, it was him doing a tribute to Bray Wyatt, in a match. So that was the first time that I watched him, and I was absolutely impressed with him. Then I've been impressed with him ever since then. However, Leo Rush is not the same as Swerve Strickland. So I saw nothing in that match with Shelton that made me go, oh yeah, this is definitely a contender for Swerve. Swerve has been, no offense, but Swerve was in the ring several times with Hangman Adam Page, who I thought was a much more dominant wrestler than Shelton appeared to be in this match with the smallest man in AEW. So,
yeah,
mm,
yeah.
I
So
mean, yeah, that's not the flex you think it is all I'm saying.
no, it's not, and it definitely doesn't. Like, if the build up is to a confrontation between Benjamin and Swerve, this match did not make me think, like I said, Swerve has anything to reconsider.
Yeah.
That said, moving on from that particular match, we're next shown a vignette where Darby Allin is apparently selling 8x10s of signed by him and Tony Hawk to help the skate park project. So for charity, and I, I'm not usually like that up on these kinds of things, but the skate park project I do think is pretty cool. So I thought that was neat. And then we cut to a scene in the back with our favorite Rennie Packets, where she is interviewing Swerve and Prince Nana, and Swerve goes on to say that he thought Benjamin's win was impressive, which is nice of Swerve. But he accepts Benjamin's challenge anytime and any place. Yeah. And so again, we are brought back to this was a setup for Swerve versus Benjamin, and we've already stated that Benjamin didn't look like he did enough in that match quick enough and brutally enough for either of us to think that Swerve has anything to worry about. And clearly Swerve accepts the challenge. He's not that worried about it either.
Yeah.
From there, we have Tony Schiavone welcoming Don Callis to the ring for reasons I don't understand why anyone would welcome Don Callis anywhere ever. But he makes his way to the ring with the entrance music that is just one note held for a very long time on a synthesizer.
That's I hate it.
Damn. Yep. But he's coming out here with Brian Cage and Lance Archer, and as much as I don't care for Callis, seeing Brian Cage, who recently won the Ring of Honor Television Championship, and the newly acquired Lance Archer coming to the ring, I was hyped for it because, man, if you want to talk about a heavyweight tag team in the making, oh, wow. Brian Cage and Lance Archer could just run through the tag division with size alone. If I had one tiny little complaint, one little one, is that I've always been a fan of Lance Archer's braids. And for whatever reason, tonight he just looked like he had dumped water on his head, and so his hair looked goofy. And, normally I wouldn't care or make a point of it, but when you went from having, kind of noticeably stand out, this distinguishes you from other wrestlers' hair, to this, I was like, what's happening? Maybe he's tired of having to braid it. I don't know, but I hope that doesn't stick. I hope he goes back to the braids because it looked cool. Yeah. That said,
I'm not sure he does the braids. I'm pretty sure he has somebody who does them for him. He might do his own braids though, which would be really freaking cool.
Yeah. But he also didn't have it colored in any kind of way either. Like usually he's got them red or something. Yeah, at first we were like, "Who's that?" And then we're like, "Oh, that's Lance Archer."
That guy? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was my only. That was the only thing. I didn't have an opinion otherwise, but I just didn't know who it was when it came out. We were both like, "Who the hell is this giant dude?"
Well, and that's kind of my point, right? Like on top of the braids being cool, it sets him apart. It was a distinguishing characteristic, which is something valuable when you're out there with like 101 other guys. You want to set yourself apart. So I do hope he goes back to it.
I mean, he is 18,000 feet tall, though, so
that does help. That does help.
18,000 feet.
yeah, he's a big guy. But Callis steps into the ring where they have set up a podium, and he begins to talk about how he enacted the best trade in the history of sports when he acquired Lance Archer. And he goes on to say he got a taste of the tag titles a few weeks ago at Grand Slam, and he wants them. So he's brought Brian Cage and Lance Archer to do that. So he's going to go after those tag titles with these two, and I'm here for it because that is a big tag team. Like Lance Archer and Big Brian Cage. Oh man, that is like 700 pounds of beef. You know what I'm saying? So it's and since power wrestling is my preferred style, I will absolutely mark out for Brian Cage and Lance Archer coming to the ring and just hitting an array of power bombs and choke slams and Steiner screwdrivers, or what does he call it? The drill claw. I mean, just I'm here for it. Like everything that Lance Archer and Brian Cage do in the ring is something I want to see happen.
Yeah.
Um, so that's going to be really cool. And then Callis brings up Kyle Fletcher to like resounding boos because Kyle Fletcher betrayed his friend Will Ospreay.
Uh-huh.
And the new champion, the new international champion, Konosuke Takeshita. And Takeshita cuts a promo first in Japanese and then finishes it off saying, like, anybody who wants some, come get some, basically. And I do have to give Takeshita some credit. He kind of looks baby faced, like not like baby face versus heel, but he is a baby faced guy, right? So that a little bit takes away from his being quite as intimidating as he could be, but he makes up for it by having a voice from his toes. Like
Yeah.
he's got some nice bass in the voice that undermines the baby face that it appears to be coming out of. So I
Yeah.
was pleased that Takeshita cut the promo he did, and it sounded intimidating, and I was like, all right, good job, Takeshita. Then we come to Kyle Fletcher, who's like 6'5" and looks like he's on a bulking phase, so because he's just been packing on muscle, but then he's got like the most high pitched kind of voice in the world, and it's
You
like,
leave
oh well,
Fletcher alone.
leave Fletcher alone. I'm picking on him. But I'm
He's a
just
good
saying
lad.
it was a noticeable contrast from like the bass that is Takeshita's voice that was surprisingly coming out of such a baby face to this kind of tall and imposing guy who has a very high pitched voice. But Fletcher says that everyone only wants to talk about Will Ospreay and they want to know why he did what he did, and then he says too bad. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess the mystery abounds.
Yeah,
Um,
he thumbs his nose at all of us.
all of us. And, Don Callis goes on to state that the family's never been stronger than today. And, I've got to give that bit an ounce of truth. I mean, I might not like Don Callis. And to be fair, it's all kayfabe. Like, I just don't like Don Callis as a character.
Yeah.
He looks like a walking thumb in a suit. But he ain't wrong. I mean, with Big Brian Cage and Lance Archer and Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita, this guy is wielding some heavy weaponry in AEW right now. Like, you want to talk about who Moxley's crew doesn't want to run across. Right now, it's the Don Callis family.
You know what? That is true. And I would actually like to see that. They should run into each other.
Yeah, I don't think that would go well for the Moxley crew. And,
And then House of Black should jump in.
seriously, and Lance Archer says everybody dies, so I don't think he would have a hesitation going after Marina Shafir and like burying her into the ground. So, because he'll just be like, everybody dies, equal opportunity death, yo. He's very progressive. Then that brings us to another segment in back with our absolute favorite Rennie Packets.
Man,
And
she was getting her check.
she was getting her check. I mean, we love Rennie Packets.
Yeah, of course.
I like Renee Paquette, like for being adorable and the voice of AEW the same way I like Samantha Irvin over in the WWE for being adorable
Yes.
and the voice of WWE. Like they're
Yeah.
national treasures. Nothing bad should ever happen to Samantha or Renee ever,
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
And if it
Ever.
does, Lance Archer should absolutely kill whoever did it.
We will riot.
Exactly.
Protect them at all cost.
All cost. They are treasures to be guarded. Besides, if anybody messed with Renee, then John Moxley would just absolutely go ham and crazy on them.
Yeah, the last thing you would see is that pickup truck.
Yeah. Yep. So, to that end, we do return to Renee, who is interviewing Mariah May. And this sort of ties into, in our Wrestle Dream coverage, we talked about how, Mariah May could use some real competition. Well, apparently she agrees because she then proceeds to ask why she's on top of the world and not a single woman can touch her. Why is everybody still talking about Willow Nightingale, the one who lost? And she says, bring me someone from Japan, from Mexico, anywhere. I mean, isn't AEW where the best wrestle? No, apparently AEW is where the best are afraid of the glamour, Mariah May.
Ooh.
And after saying that, Anna Jay runs in, just like probably one step out of frame, to confront Mariah May and gets all in her face. But then
Another
Christopher
forehead
Daniels,
attack.
yep, another forehead attack. And Christopher Daniels gets in the middle of them to try and break it up. He's all like, ladies, stop. And he ends up getting slapped super hard in the face by, I believe it was Mariah May who did it.
No. It was Anna.
It was
So
Anna?
yeah, Mariah ducked out of the way, Emma, and Anna gave him the
Christopher Daniels
business.
caught the full slap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she gave him the smack business.
so not a bad spot for old discount Adam Pierce. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I kid. I'm giving Chris Daniels grief because he really does look like he's the analog to Adam Pierce.
Seriously.
But I'm here for it. I'm here for it anytime anyone wants to slap Christopher Daniels. I'm kind of into seeing him just get hit and pile driven or anything
Yeah.
else. Um,
Just slap him. It's okay. He'll like it.
so hopefully that's you'll like it. I don't want to
Don't
know.
slap him for
I
real, guys.
don't want to know.
It's
I don't.
okay. He like.
Hey, no kink shaming here, but I don't want to know about all that. Um. So that said,
God.
maybe that means that Mariah May is going to get some good feud action. I mean, I know they've been building up Anna Jay for the last couple of weeks, talking about how she went to Japan and apparently learned how to wrestle better. So let's see if Anna Jay can bring it to Mariah May and give us something good. That then brings us to the fifth and final match of the night, the main event, which is Jay White with the Gun Club and Juice Robinson. Although it wasn't all of the Gun Club. For whatever reason, it was just Colton Gunn and no Austin Gunn. So it was Jay, Colton, and Juice Robinson versus Christian Cage with Nick and Mama Wayne. And this is probably a good time to say that we are hoping for a fast and smooth and easy recovery for Killswitch, who apparently was hospitalized with very bad pneumonia. So we hope to see him get healthy and get back soon because, you know, Christian needs more than just like Mama Wayne out there.
Well,
I mean, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win Christian's matches for him if not Killswitch? Nick? No, come on.
Yeah. Nick could do it.
You think Nick Wayne could do it?
Nick's a good boy. No, I was playing. No, I'm kidding. No, he needs Killswitch. He needs Luchasaurus.
He does. Luchasaurus. That's correct. Luchasaurus get well soon.
He needs Luchaswitch.
Luchaswitch.
Killsaurus.
Killosaurus. All improvements. To be quite honest, Killosaurus would be pretty good.
Killosaurus is pretty badass.
Yeah, that's kind of badass. He should come back as Killosaurus.
Christian Cage. Give it a try. It rolls off the tongue. Seriously. Killosaurus. Give it a try. It's free.
Killosaurus is free. Pretty good.
From Top Tier Wrestling Podcast to you. Free.
Yes, our gift to the patriarchy.
Yeah.
So this match starts out with Christian being a bit hesitant to start the match because it's Christian.
Yes, exactly.
But I as much grief as I'm going to give Christian, like honestly, this ended up being a much better match than I thought it would be. Christian can still go, and Jay White has done nothing but look spectacular since he's made his return back to the ring.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, absolutely spectacular. And there's no change in that here either. Jay White is absolutely bringing it to Christian, just slapping him out of that turtleneck. And some of the high spots of the match, obviously, Jay White nailing that absolutely brutal looking Uranagi that he likes to throw. That was a big high spot. There was a really nice DDT out of the corner, I think, that Christian may have done. Let's see. And near kind of the end of the match, Christian ends up running into a complete shot kind of flatliner and then gets sent into the corner by White, and White, is trying to pull him out of the corner, but he then ends up hitting him with like a huge Saito suplex and another half and half suplex into the turnbuckles, and I'm like, wow, White is going for this win.
Yeah.
And then he sets Christian up on the top rope, but gets thrown off, and Christian follows it up with a diving headbutt for a 2 count. And Christian wants to go for the spear, but White catches him into the position for the Blade Runner. And at this point, we kind of have interference on 2 fronts. We've got Kip Sabian jumping up on the apron, and that distracted the ref. And I'm not sure if Kip Sabian was here to help or to hurt Christian, but that distraction of the ref right when White was attempting to go for the Blade Runner allowed Hangman Adam Page to come in from the other side and hit a buckshot lariat on Jay White while the referee's back was turned, and gets the 1-2-3 for Christian Cage.
Yeah. Now
And
they had shown Hangman show up I'd say about a minute or so earlier. So because Kip showed up around about the same time, and he sort of distracts the referee then, but then gets off the apron, just basically backs up, and then we see that from the other side, Hangman shows up, but he ducks out of view of the ref. So he's just biding his time, waiting.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
then
that's worth
go.
that's worth mentioning because you made reference to, what do you
Yes,
call it, the Manson lamps.
the
And
Manson
so
lap.
a couple of times they show us Hangman laying at the side of the ring to try and stay out of the view of the referee, but the whole time he is giving us the super crazy eyes. Like, it's like, are you
Yes,
okay,
like
Hangman?
he's just staring straight into he's just staring straight,
Yeah,
laying on his back, looking like the biggest psycho I've ever
like
seen.
the biggest psycho. So there was like so much Manson lamp, as you like to say, with
So
the
much.
crazy eyes. And one high spot that I failed to mention was at one point when White initially attempts the Blade Runner, Christian, I think, goes to the eyes and then reverses it into a kill switch. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Christian did get the kill switch off, but it was only like for 2.9. It didn't get the 3. But overall, Christian and Jay White actually put on a really good match.
they looked great together, and I don't know if that's just
Yeah.
because Jay White just meshes well with people. I don't know what it is, because I mean he gave us a banger with Adam Page, which I'm hoping I see again soon. But him and Christian, that's the most entertained I've been by Christian Cage in a very long time.
Yeah, and
So
Christian was
more of
going.
that.
I mean, I know that it ended with interference, but in that match, Christian was given as good as he got.
Yeah,
And so I was really impressed. I mean, I know I give Christian and the Patriarchy grief. Again, it's more for their kayfabe characters. No part of
yeah,
me denies that Christian Cage is an excellent veteran wrestler.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I can't really think of too many matches I've ever seen in him with him in it that wasn't a better match because he was in it. I might really dislike his character, but the guy, Christian, is very, very good. And
Yeah.
this match with Jay White was outstanding. I mean, it was a really solid main event. It also ended up kind of furthering a bit of a storyline between whatever, we still aren't sure what's happening with the Patriarchy and Kip Sabian, but he keeps appearing and he keeps kind of
Yeah.
interfering with stuff. It's also worth mentioning that relatively, like, I want to say relatively early in the match, Nick Cage and Mama, not is it, I called him Nick Cage, Nick Wayne and Mama Wayne both got ejected from the ring area. So the outside interference from Kip Sabian and Hangman kind of didn't have to contend with them. But I don't know where they're going with Kip Sabian, but they keep teasing that this is trying to go somewhere. And I can't for the life of me figure out if Kip is trying to join the patriarchy or if he's trying to
Yeah.
mess with the patriarchy. And so that one's kind of on slow burn, but I'm intrigued. But it also furthered the story simultaneously between Jay White and Hangman Adam Page. And I mean, not for nothing, Hangman absolutely drilled him with that buckshot lariat. Like, it looked
Yeah.
great. And so this was just a really cool, well fought, well wrestled main event.
I agree.
And for anybody who might be wondering, well, where was like Juice and the Gun Club? They were also part of who all got ejected.
Yeah, they got ejected first.
Yeah, let me actually mention this correctly because Juice and Juice, you're right. Juice Robinson and what was it, Colton Gunn got ejected first, and it was because Nick Wayne had brought like a chair over there, and then they tried to get the chair out of play, but the ref only saw them with the chair. So they get ejected, but they're not real pleased by that. So the minute the ref stops looking, they like rear attack Nick Wayne and then proceed to grab him and drag him out. And Mama Wayne follows. So that's how all four of the accessory men and woman got removed from play. And it was pretty funny. But with all of those elements out of the way, it allowed Kip Sabian and Hangman to do their thing unobstructed. And it also allowed Christian and Jay White to have a relatively, until that point, relatively distraction-free match in which they were really putting on a banger. It was good.
Yeah.
I always say that the best thing a match can do is make you want to see the rematch. I would love to see the rematch between Christian Cage and Jay White. They did great.
Yep, I agree.
And I don't know if it's just because both of them are that dang good. I'm sure that's the lion's share of why. But I also think it's that, like, Christian and Jay White actually physically match up pretty well. Like, they're both on the leaner side, and so I think they're two men that could easily do their moves to one another. It's not like a physical mismatch.
Yeah.
So with that said, we come to the end of AEW Dynamite, and with one exception, I would have to say this episode of Dynamite was top tier. I'd absolutely recommend it to anybody who wants to watch. Like, this is a solid 8 out of 10. And again, we are given a super good card with like one bad match on it. And I don't know if that's done on purpose at this point because it happens so frequently that we have a very good card with one standout, like this is when you should fast forward or go to the bathroom or get your popcorn kind of match.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that it was top tier. It followed, or it went with a lot of story progression. They seem to kind of sort of be following suit with WWE's way of filming a show, where there's like one particular theme, and that theme it permeates throughout the entire episode. In this case, I think it was the Moxley crew. They kind of were interwoven. Their story was kind of interwoven into the rest of the show itself. So
yeah, them
I like
versus
that.
Yeah, I agree. Them versus the AEW locker room was the through line throughout the show. And
Yeah.
I'm doing a small disservice here because the last match of the night wasn't the last vignette of the night. I believe they closed the show out showing the Dark Order and Private Party and Top Flight. Well, no, not Private Party. It was Top Flight and the Dark Order are still going at it with Moxley's crew in the backstage leading into the parking lot. And they have a bit of a back and forth beating each other up until Moxley and his crew decide to jump into the back of the waiting pickup truck and drive off with Dark Order kind of giving chase, or more specifically, John Silver takes out running after that pickup truck while the camera turns back around to what's his name? The masked member of Dark Order, is it Zero
Evil Uno.
or Evil Uno? Yeah, Evil Uno cuts a promo talking about how, you think you can just walk all over the Dark Order. You want to fight, you got one. And then the camera switches over, like just turns to the left slightly to get Top Flight cutting a promo saying tantamount to the same thing. So we're definitely seeing this through line of AEW versus Moxley's crew. And even in the show, they're wondering if BCC is still their name, because like a couple of times now, the announcers have kind of questioned whether they're still the BCC. So I'm curious to see if they're going to get a rename of some kind, or if they're even going to bother with it. Like, I would think if that was a thing Moxley was interested in doing, he would have done it by now. Yeah. But maybe it's coming. Maybe that's what they were trying to come up with a name. So I don't know.
I think maybe John Moxley wants to be a bit more stoic and not give the group a name. But I think the unofficial name will most likely end up being Moxley Crew.
I mean, it's right there. Like, it's a playoff of the Motley Crew. Yeah. But I don't know. They may go a different direction with it. For all I know, Tony Khan is negotiating with WCW or something. I don't know how they would do that. I think he would love for it to be called the NWO, because it's clearly what it's trying to be. But WWE owns the WCW, and I don't think they're giving that up anytime soon. So I'm curious to see what they do end up coming up with, because now that they've kind of mentioned it in show, that like, are they even still kind of called the BCC? I think that kind of sets the stage for a name forthcoming, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. But I guess we shall see.
Indeed. So just to recap, my review my rating for this is definitely top tier, and yours was the same?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So an excellent episode, again, with only one bad mark, for AEW Dynamite from October 16th. And that brings us to the end of another episode, and I want to thank everybody who joined us. And I look forward to hopefully everybody joining us for our next episode, which I believe will be WWE SmackDown coming up.
Doom.
Smook Dune. All right. That said, I think there's only one thing left for me to do, and that is roll the outro. Thanks again, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.